Students, it's been a wonderful 3 days so far. So time to wind up. So time to talk about a few very important things that we've had discussions on, and time to kind of put it all together. So we would want you to speak out a little as we go along. And I'll hand over to Mr. Suchorita Bardhan in a moment's time. But before that, there is another thing that we wanted to talk about, and we thought that the Valedictory session would be a very important place to talk about that. So are you listening? Are you there? Can I hear some voices?
Yes, sir, sure. We
Yes,
are.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Sagar,
Yes,
Akanksha,
sir.
Shrishta. 5 of you only. I can see 61.
Sir,
Anyway.
yes, we are here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wonderful. So now we are going to talk a little bit about storytelling before I invite the communication specialist, Unicef office for West Bengal, Ms. Suchorita Bardhan. So we know that storytelling is so very important, and as communication students, we have to understand the implications and what goes behind those stories. So just a very quick question, and I want quick answers. As communicators, we must be able to give short answers as well. So what do you think is we as audience like in stories, or which are the stories that we remember? Give me short answers. Anyone?
They're like real life stories.
We like to see real life stories. Wonderful, Akanksha. Anyone else?
The stories that we can relate to.
Stories that we can relate to, Sanjukta. Wonderful. Anyone else?
So like stories with like happy endings.
Story with happy endings. Fabulous. Who else? Anyone else? You can.
Extremely
Yes, sir. The
enriching
story of
and
daily life.
Story of daily life, Suchorita. Thank you. Database story, says Amrita. Who else?
sir, this is Koheli again. Sorry for interrupting for so many times.
Just the answer. What do you like in stories?
So the extremely insightful and enriching one. The whole workshop, at a time we could learn so many things.
Koheli, the question is different. What do you like in stories? যখন কোনো একটা স্টোরি দেখো তাতে তোমার কোন জিনিসটা ভালো লাগে?
Okay, sir. Sorry, I'm mistaken then.
কোনটা ভালো লাগে? Which story do you like?
Sir, regarding print media or anything sort of like that?
Anyway, let's hear more answers and come back to that. Anyone else? What do we like in any story? It can be a movie, it can be print, it can be a radio story, it can be any kind of a story. What are the things that we remember in a story?
Positive and inspirational stories, sir.
Unexpected or unique.
Yes, Sagar, what else?
Something unexpected and unique.
Unexpected and unique. Wonderful. আর কি বলো? তোমরা as audience তোমাদের স্টোরিতে কি ভালো লাগে? কি দেখতে ভালো লাগে? কি শুনতে ভালো লাগে? কি জানতে ভালো লাগে?
The climax, first and foremost things, the climax when we're arriving at that point, and obviously exclusive ones and unique ones. And I have seen a film lastly, which was in Assamese language.
Okay, Koheli will go to another one. So you are saying climax?
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Short answers. Who else? Anyone else? আরে বাবা এত স্টোরি দেখো, এত সিনেমা দেখো, কোনটা মনে থাকে, কোনটা মনে রাখো? Because this is universal. We are going to talk about some very important
So stories about suspense.
Stories about suspense. Wonderful. দেখো as human beings we are wired to thriller. As human beings we are wired to dealing with stories. Amra kintu storytelling is something that is very very close to us, or it's something that we are kind of over the years we have been kind of primed into going into those stories. আমি পুরোটা এখানে ডিসকাস করছি না, কিন্তু একটা দুটো ছোট ছোট জায়গা আমি যাব, সেখানে তোমাদের উত্তরটা চাইবো। এইসব দেখেছো তোমরা? তো এইসব ইন্ডিয়ান আইডল, কৌন বনেগা করোড়পতি, দেখো এগুলো দেখা হয়েছে? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
the कौन बनेगा करोड़पति সেখানে কি শুধু কুইজ কোশ্চেন আনসার চলে শুধু না আর কিছু থাকে ওখানে?
Personal
There
daily
are
life
options
experiences.
and
Yes, personal experiences, wonderful. কারণ তার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড অ্যাজ হিউম্যান বিংস তার সম্পর্কে সে কিভাবে একটা জিনিস ফাইট করে একটা জায়গায় এসেছে সো অন এন্ড সো ফোর্থ সেগুলোই থাকে তো সেটাই তো আমরা মনে রাখি তো ইয়েস অর নো?
Yes,
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 sir.
sir,
Yes,
and
sir.
in regards of dadagiri as well, I believe.
Yes.
স্টোরিজ যেখানে হিউম্যান ইন্টারেস্ট এলিমেন্টস থাকে।
অ্যাবসলিউটলি এগুলো আমরা এমনকি স্পোর্টসেও আমরা যখন স্পোর্টস স্টার শুধু তাদের স্পোর্টিং ইভেন্ট নিয়ে কথা বলি না, আমরা কিন্তু যশস্বী জয়সওয়াল, মোহাম্মদ সিরাজ, মহেন্দ্র সিং ধোনি, বিরাট কোহলি সবার কিন্তু পার্সোনাল স্টোরিজ গুলো বেশি বলে থাকি, সেটা মনে থাকে তাই না?
ইয়েস স্যার।
These are the stories that inspires us. These are the stories that we can identify with. একজন তোমরা যেটা বললে, stories that we can relate to, stories that we find are believable. So there is a method into those stories, and that is what we are trying to tell you. That unless we say, see those raw data, just raw information, শুধু raw জ্ঞান কিন্তু কেউ মনে রাখে না, কিন্তু সেটাকে আমি এমন ভাবে স্টোরি দিলাম, তোমার যদি কনভেনার করতে কিছু মনে থাকে বা যদি কোনো প্রিন্ট মিডিয়ায় কোনো খবর একটা মনে থাকে, most of those things would be about individuals in trouble and how they get out of that trouble. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Most of these
Yes,
stories
sir, absolutely.
are about individuals in trouble and how they get out of that trouble. Agree, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
কারণ এটা নিয়ে প্রচন্ড রিসার্চ হয়েছে এবং তোমরা জানো our field is something that is very related to psychology as well, because this is something that we have always been trying to find out. Why are stories of homo sapiens fixated on trouble? সব সময় কোনো না কোনো ট্রাবল আছে, সেই ট্রাবলটা কিভাবে সে সারমাউন্ট করছে, সে কিভাবে সেটাকে জয় করছে, তাই না? মহেন্দ্র সিং ধোনি ফ্রম পভার্টি, ওনার এইরকম একটা বাধা, এই বাধাটা কিভাবে অতিক্রম করেছে। Am I clear?
Yes, sir, and also there are so many
Yes, sir.
biopics
Yes.
regarding Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
Not just one, I'm saying all stories, most of the stories are about some trouble. These people, they were having so much of these problems, how they surmounted that or how they're dealing with that. Am I clear about that?
স্যার যে কোনো স্টোরি শুরু হয় যে কোনো একটা প্রবলেম থেকে এবং তার সলিউশনে পৌঁছানো, সেটাই কনক্লুশন, মানে মুভিতে যদি দেখি মানে স্ক্রিপ্ট অনুযায়ী আর কি।
তো ভেরি গুড। সো এটা যে কোনো জায়গায় আমি এটা ভেরি কুইকলি, কারণ ভ্যালিডিটি সেশন আমরা জাস্ট ওই যেটা ম্যাডাম আগে বললেন আমরা জাস্ট স্নিপেটসই কথা বলতে থাকি। তো স্টোরিজ আর অলমোস্ট অ্যাবাউট পিপল or even about personalized animals or whatever, কিন্তু তাদের কোনো একটা সমস্যা আছে আর আমরা দর্শক হিসেবে চাইছি যে তারা কিন্তু যাতে এই সমস্যাটা তারা কিন্তু অতিক্রম করে। We want them to win, we want them to survive, we want them we want the girl to win the boy, or we want the the child to find his lost parents or something. সেটাই তো নাকি?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
এভরিওয়ান এটা মনে পড়ছে যে কোনো না কোনো প্রবলেমে আছে এবং আমরা চাইছি তারা কিভাবে এই প্রবলেমটা সারমাউন্ট করছে। সুতরাং স্টোরির যদি আমাকে ইকুয়েশন বলতে হয়, যদি ইকুয়েশন ইজ নট এ ভেরি গুড টার্ম ফর দ্যাট, কি দাঁড়াচ্ছে এটা স্ক্রিনে দেখা যাচ্ছে?
Yes, sir.
There is a character, আমরা পরে দেখবো সেই ক্যারেক্টার যাতে আমরা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে পারি। আমি জাস্ট দুটো আরো পয়েন্ট বলে এটা শেষ করবো, বিকজ we have time to run out, and just after I finish my presentation I'll invite Mr. Divan Bhaduri to share the feedback link as well. সুতরাং একটা ক্যারেক্টার আছে, সেটা একটা পারসন হতে পারে, পার্সোনালাইজ অ্যানিমাল হতে পারে, বা কোনো একটা ইস্যু হতে পারে, তার একটা প্রেডিকামেন্ট আছে, প্রেডিকামেন্ট মিন্স তার কোনো একটা সমস্যা আছে এবং সেটা কিভাবে এক্সট্রিকেট করার একটা অ্যাটেম্প্ট করা হচ্ছে। Am I clear? Do you agree with this kind of a equation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, শুধু দুজন নয়, others.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. সুতরাং আমরা বুঝতে পারছি যাদের লিটারেচার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড আছে, তোমরা জানো এই প্লট স্ট্রাকচার। আমি we don't have that time to get into that plot structure, কিন্তু হচ্ছে যে একটা প্রবলেমটা কিভাবে we are trying to win over that problem. Or that is something very, very important. Please, one of you can read it out on as well. Something must be at stake that convinces the audience that a great deal. Yes, Suchorita, you want to say something? Suchorita Goswami? Yeah. So something must be at stake that convinces the audience that a great deal will be lost if the hero doesn't obtain his goal. The last point and the very important point that I want to make here, তোমরা নিশ্চয়ই শুনেছো বা আমরা ক্লাসে সেগুলো কমিউনিকেশন ক্লাসে অনেকভাবে ডিসকাস করি, সেটা হচ্ছে কনসেপ্ট অফ মিরর নিউরনস। শুনেছো তোমরা মিরর নিউরনস? চ্যাট বক্সে লিখলাম, মিরর নিউরনস কনসেপ্টটা শুনেছো তোমরা? Yes or no? You can safely say no, then I'll know that you don't know. No, sir. Very good.
No, sir.
No,
Sorry,
sir.
ওকে ওকে। আমরা যখন দেখছি যে ধরো বিরাট কোহলি যখন 49 আউট হয়ে যাচ্ছে, আমাদেরও কিন্তু মনে হচ্ছে ও বাবা কি মিস করলাম, মাঝে মাঝে মনে হয় তো। যারা ক্রিকেট বা ধরো হিরো সামহাউ হি ইজ ফাইটিং এন্ড হি মিসেস দ্য বাস, আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে আমরাই হয়তো বাসটা মিস করলাম। অনেক সময় সেই ফিলিংটা আসে তো।
Yes, sir.
When we are deeply involved in the story, যেটা আমাদের প্রোটাগনিস্ট ফিল করছে সেইটা আমরাই ফিল করছি, because there are mirror neurons in our system which makes us identify with the protagonist. সুতরাং এমন কোন সমস্যা থাকতে হবে, এমন কোন একটা সিচুয়েশন থাকতে হবে যেটা যেটা যেটার সাথে মানুষ আইডেন্টিফাই করছে, আমার অডিয়েন্স আইডেন্টিফাই করছে। তার পেছনে কিন্তু একটা মেডিকেল কারণ আছে। মেডিকেল কারণটা কি, যে আমাদের প্রত্যেকের মধ্যে একটা এই মিরর নিউরন আছে, এবং দ্যাট মিরর নিউরন ইজ অ্যাক্টিভেটেড বা we feel the pain or we feel the kind of exaltation. যদি এত একটা সমস্যার পরে আমি দেখছি হিরো জিতছে, ওই যে হিরোর যে নিজের ফিলিংটা সেটা আমরা নিজেরাই ফিল করি, বা আমরা যে দলকে সমর্থন করি সেই ফিলিংটা আমাদেরই হয়। Am I clear about that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I am trying to break down the
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to break it down that আমরা যে কথাটা বলি that we identify. I'm trying to explain why do we identify. So we remember stories that create or that cause that emotion with under us, among us. Am I clear about that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So storytelling is something that we must know, and we've had lots of discussion about how to add to that storytelling, how to get the right tools, which questions to ask, why to ask those questions, why should we be interested in certain kind of stories, so on and so forth. And I think that as students, you must be provoked to kind of relating to these kind of things. So storytelling is a massive area, and there are lots and lots of things that can be done there. But we must understand that as communicators, we will be successful only if we are good storytellers. Am I clear about that?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And also, last day or yeah, I believe that narrative journalism was also there included in the workshop. The formation of the narrative, storytelling.
Yeah. So I mean, let's not get into these jargons, but the idea is that if I say something in terms of anecdotes, আমি যাচ্ছিলাম, আমি দেখলাম, so something that people can identify with. Abstract things people cannot identify with. So that's a beautiful way of communicating your thoughts. So I'm sure you will keep thinking about these things, keep looking for all these newer avenues, and I'm sure you'll have lots and lots of things as we go along. And this is just the beginning. We just wanted to introduce all these concepts of development journalism, and the person responsible for putting it all together is Ms. Suchorita Bardhan, the communication specialist, Unicef office for West Bengal. all you students can't even imagine the kind of work that goes behind all these kind of things, because it's not just that we decided once, nice day that, let's do this. No, it's not like that. There is lots and lots of scientific evidence that goes behind that, and we look into a lot of data, we look into a lot of other avenues. We also look into how to put it across to you. To talk more about it, I invite our colleague, Ms. Suchorita Bardhan, Communication Specialist, Unicef Office for West Bengal. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Umashankar Pandey, and very good evening, almost early night, to all the students. And I think this is an overwhelming response to have all of you up until now and for the last 3 days. I will not come back to you with too many things right now, because we are almost closing at 9:28 or almost 30, I think, and that's the schedule for today. I just want to say a couple of words, and I promise I won't delay you for long. We started looking at development journalism when we realized that evidence-based, and please mark my words because you've gone through all of it. Many of you had known about it already earlier. You may have enhanced your skills and understanding. Some of you may have been oriented again. So you would understand the kind of bottlenecks and gaps that we're looking at. So there was a gap of looking at evidence-based, authentic, and appealing news that spoke about issues that affected human development, and within that violated either human rights or children's rights. More so, when we looked at policy, and policy planners and decision makers bank on media to a great extent, I would say a little more than earlier times. If you walk into their chambers, you would see one television channel or the other already on, a bunch of print newspapers are either on their table or somebody providing them with an analysis for the day, scanned information on specific issues pertaining to their areas. And then there is sensationalization. There is reactionary journalism. There is TRP, there is breaking news, all of it. And you would know that crime, politics, sports, page 3, and anything that is not accountable, that does not require much accountability, is something that is always there. How many times would you see something very appealing as a story? And I was just hearing to Dr. Pandey when he was interacting with you all about what, according to you, were some of the stories that you remember. Similarly, what would you remember in terms of a news report? Something that really intrigued you, at the same time gave you insights. There are some pieces, if you do a Google search, if you do a search engine optimization, you will see, if you're trying to look at something, you go and choose a particular URL. You choose the URL based on the kind of information and news that is getting generated. And you tend to rely on some of them. So this reliability, this authentication, this backing of evidences, this using of data and storytelling is what actually captures the imagination also of important people, both you and me, but also of decision makers. And if you are to make a statement, and while you're working, you need to realize that your editor will look at your news based on also what is most appealing. Your facts have to be there. Your credible sources have to be there. Your issues, even if they are mundane, can make way for national flavor and internationally picked up if you have the right and exact proportion of these combinations. And that is what makes for a good journalist. Many times, there are many people who tell us, what is there in a toilet? How do you report toilets? And how do you report, women's rights all the time, or how do you look at, nutrition? These are not interesting. Many times we also think about the glamour quotient in media. You will be surprised to know that development news or social development news, quote unquote, is equally, if not more, glamorous in the sense that you can make it appealing if you come up with the right combination of information backed by evidences, data, anecdotal, interesting stories, credible resources, and the storytelling will be such that the district magistrate of a place might just call you and find out more information about the issue that you have highlighted and immediately get to action. Those are the kinds of reporters and journalists that we are looking at. And believe me, it doesn't matter what you're reporting on. It doesn't matter if you have to make 2 stories on it in 1 month. Your editor will be most willing to look at you. Your media fellowships, those who organize them, will be most willing to look at you or hear about you if you know exactly and how you want to report. I'm saying all this to you because this is the time for you to get nurtured. Like we treat our students, we like to create a cradle for our students, because this is the time that we can give you as much as possible, facilitate opportunities and scope for you, so that when you are out there many years later, or even just when you step out, you will remember, that session did make a difference. And I'm sure amongst those who are still here, you would be able to recall at least 4 or 5 such instances from your childhood which still stand out. Those are memories because something happened, but in a very special way. As you were talking about storytelling, either there was a solution, or the way it happened to you panned out so differently, or there was a surprise element, or you learned so much that it changed a lot of your perspectives. So I would, without expanding more, I would like to say, try and utilize these opportunities. They don't come in always familiar packages, but when they come to you, try and grasp as much as you can, so that when you are out there, you never know which avenue will lead you where. And some of the best reporters have been able to use the same opportunity provided to many and tweak it in a way that made the real difference. So while we are trying to facilitate this discussion with y'all, you would have known that we've tried to do it with your faculties also, so that we can try and integrate those courses. And now from tomorrow, we'll be going out for a training that we will start with the district media journalists, those who may have been available or may not have had the opportunity to be trained. So my request to you is that when you are looking at reporting, rather than looking at reactive journalism, sensationalizing things, because you are already getting trained, try and understand the nuances, the facets that make for quality, enhanced storytelling based on facts. And nothing can be better if you can become a journalist as robust as that, and you are called upon to authenticate some of the information by maybe someone sitting at the planning level. I will not exaggerate anymore, and I'd like to thank all of you, and I wish you very well. We will want to take the feedback very seriously from all of you, so that we can try and figure out what is the next course in our action, where we can come back to the colleges and universities and see that this is integrated into the curriculum in a way that it helps you, even if it means that we need to influence a little bit of the pedagogy. I'm not sure whether I should ask for any more questions, but thank you very much once again. And it was a very, very interesting and overwhelming response that we received from you. Thank you so much. Over to you, SP.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Bardhan, for putting it together like you did. Nobody could have done it better. Somebody who's been in the development sector and the social sector as a communication specialist. I mean, these perspectives are so very important, and I'm sure there have been a lot of takeaways for the students and a lot of learnings for us as well. We will continue these conversations on many platforms. I did share the website and the YouTube and many other things, and I will ask my colleague Ms. Manushi Maiti also to share our official email ID for students if they have questions or any clarifications or suggestions. They will have. Please don't worry about the forms, Sharmila and others. We have also recorded your attendance otherwise. So if you've been there, we know you've been there, and you will get the certificate. So don't worry about that at all. We have a very efficient team working in the background, to make sure that everyone, gets what is due. So time to thank all the important people involved with that, starting with all the people at Press Club Kolkata, from President of the club, Mr. Snyashi Sood, the Secretary, Mr. Kinshuk Pramanik, the Assistant Secretary, Mr. Nitai Malakar, the Treasurer, Mr. Orijit Dokto, the office staff, Mr. Pankaj Das and Mr. Mitendra Jordar, and everybody else. Our fabulous backroom team, our colleague Mr. Devan Bhaduri and Ms. Manushi Maiti, the wonderful people at Unicef, especially Ms. Suchorita Bardhan, and she's been there at all the stages, from the conceptualization to how we implement it and how we go with the feedback and how we take it forward. So as I said, without these inputs, these wouldn't have been possible. And all our extremely resource persons, as I said, people of the highest eminence, and we are extremely thankful to them for all their support and the way they've interacted with you all. And above all, the three participating institutions, especially Women's College Calcutta, Professor Bishwajit Das, Sister Nivedita University, Professor Minal Parikh, and Vishwabharati, all your teachers there from Vishwabharati as well. And our other colleagues who have joined from other institutions. We will, as I said, continue these conversations on many platforms. And you are always, we love hearing from you as often as you can. And all your emails will be attended to, we can assure you that. And we will post it on YouTube and other places. And if there is anything else that we can do, please let us know, because we learn from what you people want. And the stories we tell are the stories we hear from you. So make sure that this conversation goes on. And it's been lovely, dealing with so many people. We would have loved to see you in 3 dimensions, but we just could see all those gray boxes on my screen here. But I'm sure that we will see you all in 3 dimensions also in some place or the other. So handing it back to Ms. Suchorita Bardhan for the last words,
No last words anymore. We should call it a day, allow our very dear students to have their dinner and have a good night's sleep while you keep thinking and reflecting, and do not hesitate to get back to us. All the best.
So that's a wonderful note to end on, and the email ID for clarifications is there. You'll hopefully get your certificate by tonight or by tomorrow. So we take your leave and see you again someplace, sometime. Thank you so much. All of you have been a wonderful audience. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
so
Thank
much,
you,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Sir, I am ending the session then.
Yes.
Recording that. আমরা কি আর মিট করছি না তাহলে আমরা কি do we meet online or we just end it?
So, if possible, let's just end it, and if we can meet tomorrow or day after, it will be helpful for me.
So you want to end right now?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Let's end it right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.